of politics this year especially, like there are so many triggers that if you even say one thing the wrong way, it just triggers different people. Vice versa, they trigger me and I'm like, oh.
I know.
Are you having a stroke? No, but I'm thinking over it, I gotta go to the bathroom. I've been able to set up the live stream too. So I'll have it.
It's not on now.
It is not that nice. I just have it. But that's okay. All right, so see if we can get that started. I'm not much of a technician, you know.
I don't know how
I
to
get
use any of
easily
that stuff.
anxious. Stand by. Okay. Recording. So from now on, everything is recorded.
Everything language.
Like, everything you say can be held against you. Is that how they say it in the legal system? Hey, good morning. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I didn't even get to say give a hug to the others. That makes me think I should do that, right?
Thank you. We all need a hug.
We all need a hug, don't we? Yes, hugs are so good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Lisa.
Yes.
Yes. Good to see you again. Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Yes. So it was not hard, huh, to know where
Nope.
that you were here last week and everything, so. So I tried to, like I was saying on my email, I'm trying to get a bit more of a prayer. Last sessions we gave during Lent, Kate was there. And a few people, Ted, you know Ted, he was there last spring. And we were doing it in a church and we had adoration. And for some reason this year we can't do it, but we're going to have adoration through live streaming, which is not, of course, as strong, but it's still going to bring us in the spirit, I think, of prayer. And with the music there, that music of Taizé, the community of.
I love Taizé.
You know Taizé? Isn't that beautiful? Type of community.
Oh, no, the tables were better. Come on, the tables were better.
Come on, Ted. I'm going to get a hug.
Okay, bonjour, baby.
Bonjour, baby.
Hi, bonjour.
Hi, mon ami, oui.
Hi.
Mary Lou, she's French Canadian descent, and we found out that we had connections. And her name is Mary Lou, and my name is Mary Lynn, but she keeps calling me Marie.
I know.
Remember I told you it's Mary Lynn?
And I just found my baby book, and it says Marie on it. So I have Marie stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think they changed it.
You
to
have to
Mary.
reprogram
I know. We were born probably in the same generation.
Yes.
All Marys in the 50s.
Yes.
Oh, if you're so confused, we'll call you Fred.
Fred?
I'll call you Fred.
That's my grandfather.
Wow.
I don't want to block anyone with you. I don't.
See, that's why I wanted tables.
Oh, I know. In church, we all like alternate, so we don't block anybody. Right, Ted?
Well, forget it, Chet. Yeah, Fred, it's okay.
Janet, as you must have read in the it's already 10 o'clock. I was going to say Janet and Paul. You knew they were not going to be here this week. Eileen, I think, had said she would not be here. But Camilla is supposed to be absent as well. That's right. But Belinda and still quite a bit of people who. But I think we're going to still start because or else that will get us a little bit late.
I don't see the flies. The flies.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
So welcome again. And we'll start with the Ave Maria. How's that? We'll have it play. I don't really like to sing during sessions like that. Sometimes I do, but especially now I'm struggling with allergy and I'm all congested. So I'll just play a recording, okay? I have the wrong. Good, sorry. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you. I tried. I left it about 17 minutes after 9.
And where do you come from?
Danville, but they had a detour on Main Street, so
Oh.
I couldn't take the main road.
Okay,
I
well, you made it.
I made it.
That's what's important.
didn't make it early.
You just didn't get the hug, the welcome hug. I'll give that to you in a minute when we stop. So, just a little sort of short thoughts, some short sections of the thoughts that we left on last week, okay? Because we wanted to cover a few more things. I'll try to be brief. Just read that through, and then we'll get into today's theme, which is the first miracle, the water turned into wine at the wedding of Cana. All right? So as we saw last week, since Jesus is the incarnation of the Father's word through the Holy Spirit remaining in us, if we love one another, right? John's passage on how to have the communion of the Trinitarian we dwell in us is an indication for us of how to become a communion as people of God. You remember that, huh? And you probably read some of the.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm a little
How are
late.
you doing?
I'm okay.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Good to see you.
Perfect.
all too.
Okay.
Thank you. Shall I sit anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So as we were talking about this, we were left off about talking about the listening abilities facing the obstacles that come with hearing about other people's pain and suffering, necessarily triggering the memory of our own pain and sufferings. You remember that, right? Okay. To listen to the words of Christ within us and in others, did we say? We are called to face our unresolved issues, usually rooted in our primary experiences of life and love through our parents' care. So you also remember we talked about that. Where we left off, it was about how we could these primary experiences of life, the wound that they leave in us, we could call them the personality wounds, or I often like to say wounds of love. All the wounds that we have are usually about love. Then we could say there are three types of outcome from the wounds, okay? And they all have to do with low self-esteem, when we view ourselves as unworthy, but others as worthy. So that can give us a tendency to depression. We can also view ourselves as worthy, but others as unworthy. Okay? It can give a tendency to narcissism or self-centeredness. Or again, we can see ourselves and others as unworthy. That is a little bit more problematic. It usually leads to anger and rebellion. To illustrate this phenomenon, let us talk about the reactions people might have when hearing Jesus call to deny ourselves for others and take up our cross. If we are to follow him, right? When understood from that angle, from the angle of our wound, this call to self-denial can be misunderstood as an obligation to lower or not assert ourselves in various situations where we should instead be assertive, or trigger a feeling of anger that is used to justify becoming defiant of this call. So while Jesus' invitation to do away with ego and self-centeredness is necessary for us to become loving individuals, misconceptions of self-denial can lead to behaving out of fear or out of self-determination or righteousness. So the self-denial is not always out of love. For sure, Jesus' calling cannot be one resulting from such misconception. You agree with me, right? We know it is rather a call to choose freely, to put our own needs aside out of love. It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm not worthy, or, have to deny my value. No. It has to do with a choice to put aside our own needs for the sake of others. So when denying ourselves for other reasons than love, chances are we are doing it out of the womb. So that's maybe the section that I wanted to cover, since we had left off on this note, and because of the changes last week, the fact that we had gone to mass prior, things were a little bit disorganized, and even this idea also of creating more of a spirit of prayer. That's why we put the chairs that way, Ted, not because I wanted to give you trouble there, but because these sessions that I sort of feel that I can offer, I like to think of them not as a training, not as a class, but as a spiritual experience, sort of, listening to Christ's word that opens our heart to knowing how to listen. I often say to my sister, how I take care of two of my siblings who have disability, and my sister has a mild retardation and a hearing impairment, but she's very strong, very articulate in her needs and everything. And sometimes the example I wanted to say, I kind of lost my thought here. It'll come back. So I'll give that example when it comes back. I guess it was not. I often say to her, as a matter of fact, when she loses her thoughts, she gets a little upset. And so I said, if it's important, it's going to come back. So I think that's the case. So anyways, what I wanted to say is that I would like to create this atmosphere where, oh yeah, now my thoughts came back. So when things are not important, I say to her, it'll come back. And also in the sort of that, that's mode of prayer, sort of a state of prayer. It's that if we try to listen, we're not going to be listening well. But if we learn to listen to Christ's words, his way of listening is gonna sort of be automatic. And that's what I often say to her. So sometimes she's very articulate. Marjolaine is her name. And she kind of argues, with things that should be done her way and everything. So, and then I had to teach her to sort of listen and to let go of the anger before she can express her needs to me. But then she said, but how do I express it to you? How do I talk to you if I'm not angry? In other words, she doesn't use those words, but that's what she said. Well, I say to Marsha, then if you're not angry, if you let go, if you accept the situation, life has tons of limits. And many times she's like we all do, we don't accept the limits of life, right? Things don't go well, we don't accept it. I keep saying to her, if you accept the limit, you're going to calm down and the words are going to come to you. The way to talk to me is going to come automatically. I say automatic because when I talk with her, I make very, very simple words, but it's going to come. So listening is the same way. If you learn to just sit with the Lord and listen to him, you'll know how to listen to other people. So that's the idea. So that's why I like to create an atmosphere of prayer. And what I didn't have much time to explain last week is that the structure of the sessions is that I give this reflection on the gospel reading. Of course, you're always free to intervene in the meantime, but if you don't understand something, but I would prefer if we keep the reactions afterwards, just so that we get through the whole idea that I want to bring across. So then after that, once you react to that, you sort of assimilate the content in a spiritual way, but also among one another. And from there, we go into a mode of prayer, a mode of adoration, where I sort of give you guidelines into how to listen to what Christ might be saying to you. Good morning, Marion.
Good morning, right in front, I guess.
Yes, right in front. So
Oh,
Marion
there's-
is a newcomer. She had put her name down, but with the first session, it was not clear and everything. And so now we met at the Adoration Chapel. The Lord does things in a strange way. Just a moment that we were both entering the church, and she was able to clarify that she was coming. So welcome, Marion. So you're okay with that? So once we get through the sort of the reflection, we take a time for reactions. We normally should take a break. Then after that, we go into a first time of adoration, take a break again, and go to a second mode of adoration. Okay, that should make up our 2 hours. Does anybody have a Bible here? No. So I'll have to, what I have to do. I forgot to bring my reading. Water turned into wine. So I'll get that out of my phone here.
Do you prefer that we bring the Bible every week?
Not necessarily. If you like to, that's fine too. But it's just that I don't have a Bible with me, and I don't have the text that I wanted to read with you. I forgot to bring it. So I'll just go ahead and get that off of my phone here and read it off of that. So give me a minute.
Want me to look in the bookcase, Mary?
Do you I have the Bible on my phone, if you know what it is.
There's
Okay,
some
yeah.
over there.
Oh, yeah, there's some Bible right there. Bible's right there. Yeah, makes sense. We would have Bibles around here. Very good. Very good. So it's if you want to follow, it's John 2, 1 to 12. That's not the Bible. We'll get it. Holy Bible, right? That should be the Bible.
I love the picture up there in the back.
Right. This is, as you know, this is the live streaming of the church right here at Mary Queen of
Right.
Peace.
Looks
So-
good.
Again, the idea is to have a,
So pretty though.
yes, isn't that
Yeah,
pretty
very
beautiful? Yes. And when we get to the adoration part, I will be having a live streaming adoration. That's what I was saying to people. So we can get into that mode. Okay. Oh, a little small, but that'll do. John 2.
So they did a great job renovating.
They did a nice job.
So, the Gospel of John, the wedding in Cana. 2 days later, there was a wedding in the town of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine had given out, Jesus' mother said to him, "They are out of wine." "You must not tell me what to do," Jesus replied. It's the first time I hear that version.
It's said in the Bible, because I know this passage. Because he says, because he claimed that
Right.
it's not my time.
It's not my hour.
It's not
Right.
my hour.
Exactly.
So that's why I said.
So that's fine. We'll take it. My time has not yet come. Jesus' mother then told the servant, "Do whatever he tells you." She knew, I guess, she had some influence on him, right? The Jews have rules about ritual washing, and for this purpose, 6 stone water jars were there, each one large enough to hold between 20 and 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill these jars with water." They filled them to the brim, and then he told them, "Now draw some water out and take it to the man in charge of the feast." They took him to the water, which now had turned into wine. and he tasted it. He did not know where the wine had come from, but of course the servants who had drawn out the water knew. So he called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone else serves the best wine first, and after the guests have drunk a lot, he serves the ordinary wine. But you have kept the best wine until now." Jesus performed this first miracle in Cana in Galilee. There he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, Jesus and his mother, brothers, and disciples went to Capernaum and stayed there for a few days. The gospel of the Lord, is that how we end normally?
Praise be to God.
Praise
Praise
be to
be to God.
In writing his gospel, John's intention was to have us come to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. By the way, I did follow your hear your request. I will be giving you handouts afterward of the essential elements. I see you writing, Betty, so, okay, but just for the essential ones. I prefer not giving them to you now because you're going to be reading, and I'm not going to be reading exactly what's in there. So we'll give it to you afterwards, all right? That works? Okay. So in writing his gospel, John wants to have us come to believe Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and thus have life in his name. That's his words, John, at the end of the gospel. John 20, verse 31. In that, the first miracle of Jesus turning water into wine is not a mere sign of his power, right? But a demonstration of his divinity as the Son of God, the Father, whom he reveals. Yet this miracle highlights the fact that this life that we can have when we believe in Jesus is one of abundant joy. Abundant joy. Now, as Pope Francis says, water is necessary to live, but wine expresses the abundance of the banquet and the joy of the feast. It symbolizes the superabundant grace of God that flows from his kingdom, which is described in Revelation as the eternal marriage supper of the Lamb. Okay, so life that John is talking about that comes from believing in Jesus is a life of abundant joy related to the feast of the marriage supper of the Lamb. We were talking about death coming soon. Huh? We're sharing how my mother has passed a year and a half ago about, and how her presence is still very much there, and how it brings us to think about, hey, wait a minute, where am I going? Where are you, Mom? I often say to Mom, where are you? Heaven is a marriage supper. My brother Jacques, Marjolaine loves chocolate. My brother Jacques too, he loves eating, and he tends to be a little bit fat. And a little bit heavy, I should say. So, and I said to them, we're talking about heaven. I said, well, yeah, heaven is a supper. Marjolaine goes, yeah, they're going to have chocolate? I said, yes, I think they will. And Jacques loves light, so he loves to think of heaven as light. He loves city lights. So how do we imagine a heaven? You know, it's a supper, it's a marriage supper of the Lamb with his bridegroom. So the life that comes with believing in Jesus is that of the kingdom, or the Lamb's marriage supper, where there is abundance of joy. I don't think we talk about that very often, right? The joy that comes with believing. This is what we are invited to. Eternal life experience as a wedding feast of the Lamb, or the bridegroom marrying us, his people. Right? Now, as wonderful as this may sound, for many people, this abundant joy is for eternal life only. It's like the reward that awaits us after death, right? But what about now? Is it true that we have to wait until death to experience such joy? After all, Jesus did say his kingdom was not for this life, was not of this life. He did say that. Yes, but he also said that the kingdom of God is among us. This means that life and abundant joy that come with believing in Jesus, though not of this world, are among us. That is both inside of us and in the love that we share with one another. Because remember, communion comes with the listening of one another as well, right? Does our belief in Jesus lead us into experience that kind of joy? Is that joy felt as being abundant? Does our communion with him give us that ecstasy that can be likened to the effects similar to having drank a bit of wine? Does our communion with Jesus give us that type of joy? Many people think it is reserved for the saints and contemplative monks. But the context surrounding this miracle reveals otherwise. Let's take a closer look at it. While John first talks about the mother of Jesus being at this wedding, he adds that Jesus and his disciples were invited too. This shows, says Pope Francis, that when calling his disciples, Jesus bound them to himself in a community. And now, like a single family, they are all invited to the wedding. I've never thought about that, right? Until I read this about Pope Francis pointing that out. So, such abundance of joy linked to believing in Jesus is one that which is experienced as a family, that is, in the communion or in the loving relationships that we are to have with our brothers and sisters, his people, the church. Have you ever thought of the church in that way? That should provide this kind of abundant joy? What does that mean? Well, let's consider how Mary, after noticing that they had no wine and challenging Jesus to do a miracle before his hour, tells the servers, do whatever he tells you. In fact, Pope Francis notes that Mary's words appear here as her legacy, since they recall the formula of faith used by the people of Israel at Sinai in response to the promise of the covenant. They said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. So, could this indicate that this abundant joy is found through what the Pope calls Mary's simple but essential recommendation to put into practice Jesus' word? Indeed. Mary's recommendation to do whatever he tells us also the program of life of all Christians, and it must be understood from the angle of the wedding feast of the Lamb, whose death and resurrection establishes his covenant with us. In that sense, it is a call for us to also commit to listen to Jesus, to listen to Jesus's words, whence follows, second thing, putting these words into practice, and third, bearing fruits. In other words, listening to Jesus' word comes first, Before you can do whatever he tells you, you have to listen to it, right? To the words, right? And from there, if you do what he tells you, then you bear fruit, right? So this sort of 3-point process. Just as Mary's listening and obedience, when espoused by the Spirit, came before giving birth to Jesus, so does our bridal type of listening and willingness to do whatever Jesus tells us precedes our bearing motherly fruits. Whether we're man or woman, right? The listening in the attitude of being espoused by the Spirit. That's the kind of listening where everything starts. Okay. So the miracle of the water changed into wine is about all Christians, men and women alike, being called to become church by adopting the Marian position of listening, obeying, and surrendering to the Spirit. You can be listening, but not willing to surrender. Right? You can be obedient, but not really. But a wedding, marriage, is all about surrendering, right? The encounter between a man and a woman is all about surrendering. If you have a sexual relationship without surrendering, it's going to be a little bit problematic. There's a surrender component to a marriage, and marriage is a symbol of Christ's marriage to the church. So our way of listening has to be Marian's way of listening when she's being espoused by the Spirit. That's understandable, right? It's another thing when when we have to apply it, right? So, but how does that relate to the abundant joy we talked about earlier that comes with our belief in Jesus? If Mary's recommendations to do whatever Jesus tells us implies that we first listen to God's words in a surrendering, espousing way, similar to Mary's when espousing the Spirit, then we should feel a similar type of spousal, abundant joy ecstasy when having a comparable, listening, obedient, surrendering attitude toward Jesus. Isn't this what Jesus commanded in Mary, Martha's sister, when he said that she chose the better part than Martha when it comes to serve him? In other words, could serving God through listening be more important than serving him through all the kind of things that we like to do for him or for others, right? Because when we're busy, we have a sense of accomplishment and we've done something good out of love, right? But when we just listen, the gratification is not immediate, right? For us. So isn't that what Jesus commanded in Mary when he said that she chose the better part than Martha when it comes to serve him? That of sitting at his feet and listening to him speak. Sitting at his feet, listening to him speak. But how does Martha's sister's way of listening to Jesus apply to us? How can we, who tend to be doers like Martha, find time to sit at the feet of Jesus to listen to him? We come to sessions like this, right? So, and how can this way of listening bring us this abundance of joy that comes with believing? Again, it has to come with believing in Jesus. Most of all, how does it relate to being family? A communion of people of God. The answer to this can be found in what we've said last week about our communion as church, stemming from the keeping of the word of Christ. Indeed, the communion we are to have with others and with its source, that of the Trinity, results from our listening to the word of Christ spoken through Scripture, yes, but also the words he speaks in us. I think we often don't pay enough attention to that. The words he speaks in us and in others. This is the basis of both our communion with the Trinity and with his people. Both are inseparable. Our communion with God comes through our communion with his body, the church, which holds insofar as this ecclesial communion is ingrained in that of the Trinity. Both go together. But I think we've not, at least that's my sense, that the communion as a people, we've not given enough importance to that, attention to that. This means that when we listen to the words of Jesus through those of his people, we help others open their heart to Christ and thus better love one another, which in turn contributes to the building of the church as a communion. How much time do we spend to that loving one another as a church? It comes through listening. And from this communion flows the joy of being in that communion of God and with his people. As such, we are witnesses of God's love while creating the conditions for other people to experience the same joy of communion and adhere to the same process. Keeping Christ's word within, having the Father love us and them, and the Trinity make its dwelling in us and in them. This is the description of in John of how church works, of how prayer works, about how being Christian works. It's all about keeping Christ's word within. That means listening to it, right? If we want to keep it, we have to listen to it. Then having the Father's love come. And from that, the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Spirit, dwelling in us, making his house in us. In French, we have a word that says, make face à demeure, make his house, his home in us. Have our home, us be his home. Yes.
No, everything you're saying is true, but as us Christians and coming to church, this is my own personal belief.
Mhm.
Ever since I was a child, when we come to church, I've always been, the priest and the eulogy, they've never expressed how important it is for us to, with the communion.
The communion as a
They
people.
never did. So we've never really known the depth of the meaning
Exactly.
of what even though the Bible, the gospel. So it isn't just us people. It's also the church itself.
Absolutely.
Because they've never really, put it out there.
Absolutely.
And like my kids don't know.
Yeah.
I am who I am
Right.
because of my belief.
Right.
But I'm unique. I'm different. I'm not like
Exactly.
everybody else.
Exactly.
And so I understand and that's why I'm here. But there is a lot that should have happened.
Right.
And never did.
And this is so, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because the intuition I feel, or the call I feel for establishing a listening ministry, and the way through the sermon that I find that it may be starting through sessions like that, is that a listening ministry is there to make changes in that church, to be what it's supposed to be. And maybe that listening ministry can emerge out of sessions like this, where people believe in this so much that we're going to say, wait a minute, we're going to make it happen, right? I believe there's a cultural change that needs to be done in that
But it's
perspective.
going the wrong direction.
Yes,
It's
sometimes, yes.
not going to the church and to Christ. They're
Mhm.
getting away from it.
Sometimes, yes.
So how do you bring it back?
Right, so,
But please remember that we have the synod, I don't know if I'm
Right.
pronouncing it right, that they're talking about over in Rome now,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
if you
Oops, excuse me.
watch that on EWTN.
I do.
Right.
I don't agree with all that. The Pope is not really
No,
100%.
but we don't have
It's
to
not.
agree,
But-
but I'm just saying, that's what this
Right.
I
whole
know,
thing
yeah.
is
Right.
listening.
and
So-
I'm glad you mentioned that. And Paula Flynn, who's part of that group, she's going to be listening to this. She's going to, I think, be happy if I mention this, is that she's also been to sessions preparing to those synods, concluding sessions that are happening right now, where it was all focused on listening to people, and she strongly believes that that can bring a change about. And you're right, in the synod itself, there is an emphasis put on listening. They want to make some changes in that direction in the church. So you have to go now, right? So Betty. Yes, okay, I'm gonna give you the handout, yeah. And you can catch up with the rest on the, right.
Have a good day.
So,
Could I make
Yes.
a little point before
Sure.
we move on?
yes,
And this sounds a little negative, but, because you're talking about listening and being a good listener. Well, someone's talking
yes,
while you're listening. Usually you're listening, you're trying to listen, so someone is speaking.
right,
But the person speaking may not have what we need to hear.
mm-hmm. Right,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't want, we shouldn't assume that what we're listening to is what we need to hear.
if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that sometimes some people will talk about not the essential or not
They
the
may not hit the point.
hit the point exactly. And that's a good, very good point that you're bringing up. And that's why I believe a listening ministry, as I feel it in my heart, should include training. So that people know what to do in situations like that to bring people to the heart of the issue that they're struggling with, for example. Does that make sense, Belinda?
Yes, I mean, it's almost like it's putting it on you, the
Right.
listener,
Right.
to discern what is
Right.
important, what are we gonna
Right.
pay attention to?
Right.
Right?
In a sense, it is, yes. In a sense, it is.
We don't wanna talk about politics, but
No.
I mean,
Right.
that's the kind of a listener you have to be when
Yes.
you listen to people
Yes,
or politicians.
Right.
Now it's on you, the listener,
yes,
to make up your mind, Do you want, almost pick and choose?
right.
you
Well,
know,
right.
what-
Right, exactly. And that brings us to something we said last week. Not only are there sometimes difficulties of our own to listen because it triggers some of our own pain, but also sometimes we have to stop listening. And we have to, in French, we have the word confrontation, but I think in English it's harsher than what we mean in French. It's more like a challenge. Sometimes we have to challenge people into what they're saying, to have them go to the deeper level. You're just talking for no reason, for example, or you're addressing something that's not relevant right now. See, right?
Or what if it's deception?
Right.
Can you tell if you're being deceived?
So and then again, that would be something that you would learn in the training on how to deal with that kind of issues. Yes, but of course you have to deal with it. Yes. So, but it's a little beyond what we can address here, right, Belinda? So, so this means that we listen to the words of Jesus through those people. We help others open their hearts. Okay. All right. So, and from this kind of listening, right, when we build a church through that, from this kind of communion, from this communion flows the joy of being in that communion with God. I think I read that, right? So I was at keeping Christ's word within. So when we listen as a community, that's what we help people do, is keep Christ's word within, have the Father love them, and the Trinity make its dwelling in them. God makes his home in us, one heart at a time. God makes his home in us, one heart at a time. And through our listening to one person at a time, it takes time to listen to one person at a time, But when many people in the community are willing to listen to 1 or 2 or 3 people, that becomes a possibility, something doable. So from this perspective, do you see how it is possible to find this abundant joy through our listening to others with the heart of Christ? When I started studying in counseling, I remember doing my field, how do you say it in English? Field, it's not residence. You know how doctors have a residence, but intern, there you go. And I remember when people started confiding in me, I had this joy inside me. Like, I'm worth this person telling me all this. It's like I had access to the sacredness of her soul, of his soul. And I had this joy, I believe this is the kind of joy that when we know how to listen, we can have. And not only the listening component, but the fact that what you provide in that person when people will say, "Oh, thank you so much. All I did was listen," but it changes people's lives. If people know they're important for somebody, it makes a huge difference. Important enough that I take time to listen to you. See? Yes, Belinda.
I was thinking of the word trust.
Yes, exactly.
You're building trust.
Yes.
there.
Yes, exactly. Who can people trust today?
Nobody.
Except the church. The church is the way, the place where they can do that. One thing is sure, that kind of joy cannot be found when we ask Jesus to do for us whatever we ask of him, like James and John did, as we will hear from this Sunday's gospel. I also was not able to let you in on the idea that when I can, I often like to make a little connection with this Sunday's gospel. Okay, so when you go to Mass, you might be able to make. So you'll see in the Sunday's gospel when James and John asked Jesus, to have the first one at his right and one at his left. That's not where you get the abundance of joy that we're talking about. In that request, the disciples show a mindset that is in the opposite direction of Mary's recommendation to do whatever he tells you, after listening, of course. So it kind of changes our mindset too when we want to put ourselves in a position of listening to Christ, right? We have to put away the requests aside a little bit. Doesn't mean they're not important, but it's not so much the focus anymore, the requests that we have. To look for the best place next to Jesus is contrary to the kind of service he's calling us to. Abundant joy comes, rather, when we listen to Christ's word while sitting at his feet in front of the Holy Sacrament or in front of a living tabernacle, his people. In front of the Holy Sacrament or in front of the Holy Sacrament of the temple that a person is, whose pain and sufferings we are called to listen to, and whose search and thirst for God, for God's love, we need to hear, so that creating a space for the Trinity to make its dwelling in them, we also then experience God's love.
Very good. Everyone has to pray over that.
Now it's time for your reaction.
Okay. Well, everything you said is very good. It's true from the Bible. The thing is, like she was saying before about people, we know that when you're listening to someone speak, a lot of them don't tell the truth. A lot of them make up stories.
Yeah, it's true.
And the thing is, we to know
Right.
what's true and what isn't.
And how to react in that situation is, yeah, exactly. That's a very good
So you
observation.
have to
Yeah.
pray to God and say,
Right.
give me the wisdom to know the difference.
So that's why when you learn to listen to Christ's word within, that gives you already some sort of sense of how to deal with situations like that. Where,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I just go to the ladies' room?
sure, go ahead. Yeah, please go right ahead.
I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
wanted to know, I missed the first part of what she said, something about a situation. So the stories they tell you are not true.
So in other words, sometimes it's not true. They may be talking of something that is not really the heart of the situation, right? So,
You brought up trust in the church. I think a lot of people have lost trust in the church. And I think that has a lot to do with why things aren't super abundant or abundant joy.
Right.
Like you talked
Right.
about.
right. Yeah, loss of trust. A lot of people have lost trust in the church. That's very true. And in that perspective, oftentimes because they've had no place where they could be heard and sense that they can belong. And if so, when you see the connection with the abundance of joy, is that because you're saying, Kate, that if there was more place for listening, then people could experience that joy? Or what was the connection you made with the abundance of joy?
I don't know
No.
how to repair that.
Right, right.
But I think that lady brought it up earlier. When we were being brought up, it was the sacraments, you go to church, it's me and Jesus, this is it.
Right,
But I've learned it's more than that. It's not
Absolutely.
just me and Jesus
No.
or me and the sacraments, it's the people.
right.
I don't know, I don't experience that. in
So
church.
that's what you're saying, Kate. So you also don't experience that church as a communion.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yes, Belinda.
I think you have to build, to get to that point where you feel this communion or you feel
Right.
abundance of joy. It's, I think you have to have the relationship
Yes,
with people.
right,
If you don't have that bond or relationship, you can't have that feeling.
right. But how are you going to build that relationship with people in the church? How are you going to do that?
Okay, listening.
Through listening, right? But how are you going to be able to let people know that someone is listening to them? See? I'm not asking you for an answer on that, but that's where the whole dilemma is, right? There is no space really for people to go to when they're going in a difficult situations. Used to be a long time. I'm not the type of person who likes to think that we should bring back what was in the past, but sometimes the references in the past help us to understand what's going on today. But I remember when I was a young kid in Canada in the little village, and this, I think it was the case too in the United States in terms of the church and the community working together, right? But in Canada, for sure, all of Quebec province, especially French Canadians, the church was first in people's mind as being that place where people knew they belonged. As things have evolved, of course, people don't really have a sense of belonging, right? But how do we how do we create that? See?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I think that starts when they're young.
Right.
At communion, when we receive communion, after that, we don't do nothing.
Mhm.
I feel the Catholic Church should, instill, like
Mhm.
we're talking now, because this is for us adults.
Mhm.
Kids is a little harder. But that's when you really start building, is when they're young,
Mhm.
and they'll bring it to when they're older
Right.
and into their family.
Right.
But that's never happened.
Right.
We never had that. And I think that if they changed, they have to, the Catholic religion has to instill, after communion, when they're teaching the children how, because they're going to receive our Lord Jesus Christ
Mhm.
in the communion, that should continue.
Right.
It shouldn't stop.
Right.
And it should continue until they receive confirmation. And then at confirmation, the young people, I was one of them, are much older and they understand more.
Right.
And that should be something that they should do.
Right.
That's how I feel, because once they leave, they never go back to church.
Right.
They don't bother.
See, Tina, you're right. A lot of things should be different in the
Yeah.
church for that communion to be established, even from childhood. But who's gonna make the change?
Well, the Pope's supposed to do the right thing, okay?
Right. But we don't want to discuss, for example, the Pope or whatever.
Well, he's the head of the church.
Right, that's true. But what I mean, Tina, is that I think it has to start from the bottom
Yeah,
up.
well, the families have to have that,
Right.
instilling their children, the
Right.
families.
Right,
But the families aren't like that today.
right.
You
That's
know,
exactly
today,
it.
everything is different.
That's exactly it, Tina. But what we want to do is, how do we go from there? That's a fact. You are right. That's a fact. But, and that we're not here to try to find the solutions, but we're here to sort of to reflect on how, is there anything that in our own personal way of listening, right, that we can start sort of inspire a little bit others? You see what I mean? We won't solve the problems of the church. We won't solve the problems of the world, you know. And I'm not here for that, and you're not here for that. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying either,
No,
but
no, I just think
right,
that the
right.
family is
Exactly.
the one that has.
And
to
you're
help
right.
the
It
kids.
has to start with the family.
That's it.
But then again, I don't have the answer on how to get that movement sort of
I don't know.
flowing, except that I truly believe one person at a time, we can do a lot. And that's sometimes a little group, we get together and we say, wait a minute, we've experienced something here. Maybe we want to go further into something else. Who knows, you know? But my focus here is to for us here to experience what difference it makes when we take time to go beyond a little bit of our own limitations when we listen to Christ. Does that make a difference in our own life? And if it does, we're already going to start shining something different in others, right? Yes, Linda?
There's a couple of things while you're talking that go through your
Yeah,
head.
sure.
But, and I was thinking of this earlier, that we are listening and Christ speaks to us, and he speaks to us through other people.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Like he could speak through you.
Yes.
And listen to you.
Yes.
And I was thinking, where do we get this joy? When do we feel this happiness during our life? When does that happen? And I feel it happens like at Thanksgiving,
Uh-huh.
family gatherings.
Right.
You have this joy,
Yes.
right?
Because you feel you're in communion somehow, right?
Oh, correct.
Right.
And so with that as an example, that you feel joy and you love being together and you have, you're sharing. God is working through
Yes.
others to
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Even though you may not even see it, but sometimes you do,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Right.
So if you look at the church, looking at it as a family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And when
Family member, we're all members of the church, so
Right.
think of it as family members
Yes.
if you want.
yes. I often like to call the church a family. When we're talking about communion, and even Pope Francis was using those words, a family. When Jesus chose his disciples and they were invited to the wedding as a family, that to signify that the church is supposed to be a family in a sense. And yet, I think what I'm hearing too in Belinda, what you're saying, is that if we individually, in our relationship with Christ and in our belief and in our prayer, we learn to listen to Christ's word deep within, beyond the wounds, not only beyond in a sense overcome, but opening the wounds that we have, to let him heal us, to let him make a difference, have us go from sadness to joy in our relationship with him. Then we know how to listen to people, to open their heart to experience that joy as well, not only in situations like Thanksgiving or gatherings like that, but much beyond that, in their own, in their struggles, for example, to go from sadness or anger to joy in their struggles, in their difficulties, because the meaning of the resurrection and of the death and resurrection of Christ, and I'll get back to that when we get into adoration a little bit is that it's when you enter your struggle, when you face your struggle, that you find the resurrection, that you find the solution. It's when you face the struggle, not only when you ask God to solve it, but when you get into it. And for people, for us to get into our difficulties, we most of the time need to be able to talk about it, to be heard, to be understood. And when you're understood in the difficulties, that's when something opens up. That's, for me, truly the meaning of death and resurrection. And it very much tied to listening. Listening is sort of the powerlessness attitude of the cross that allows for the resurrection to emerge in people's heart. But that's part of another story. Okay.
I
Yes.
find that in adoration. If
Mm.
I have struggles and I have thing and I go to adoration,
Hmm.
and you can tell a million friends about what you're going through. Somehow, they usually don't have the right answer for you.
Exactly.
But when you really go to Jesus in the tabernacle, and you just say it like it is, just
Mm.
talk to him, I find I get the best answers.
There you
when I
go.
do that.
That's exactly what it
And it
is.
doesn't matter. Sometimes I go there and I actually fall asleep.
Mm.
And I'll wake up and I have the answer.
Right.
And I'm like, and I say to him, I went in one time and I said, I have all these problems and I'm tired and I'm doing all this work on the
Mm.
side and,
Mm.
and then I went in and I just totally fell asleep. I was so tired. It was a rainy day. And I was telling him, I was complaining really. I'm like, I have no time for this. And I have to come up with some answers. And when I woke up, I had the exact answer that I needed.
Mm.
And it was like, wow.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Here I thought I had wasted my time
Right.
because I slept in there.
Right. Right.
But I didn't, because he had listened to my 2 or 3 sentences
Right.
before I fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was clear. I had the answer.
So that's exactly in line with what I'm trying to do here in the adoration, is that we take time to just let it out. As you'll see, we'll be guiding you into that. And then just listen. And when you listen, you might fall asleep at first, right? But starting to
Maybe
pay
that's
attention.
the only way to that stuff.
Right, exactly. Sometimes he has to speak it to us when we're dreaming, right? Like he did with Joseph or whatever.
But I really didn't have a dream about it. I just woke up and
Mhm.
instantly,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
do this. And I'm like,
Right,
okay, run
right.
this by them.
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
went before this group and I said, how about this?
Mm.
And they all went, absolutely. Where did you get that from?
I got it from God.
Adoration. So.
Very good. So if you're okay with that, it's already 11:03. We'll take a little break, and then we'll come back in about maybe 10 minutes, okay? And we'll start doing in that process of adoration. All right? Very good. And for some reason, I have to leave this on because I'll just have to leave this streaming on because I'm afraid I won't be able to get it to work if I stop it and start again.
Nope, just leave it. Nobody's gonna-
Right.
All I'm doing is competitive. We usually do the St. Joseph's. Yes. It is very nice. We just moved next year. Well, I grew up in the Bruin, but, we moved away for about 30 years. So now I'm retired and back in the areas, but everything seems, so.
You still there, Danny?
Oh, yeah, my kids are here, and my brothers and sisters and stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, we lived down south for quite a while. That's something I noticed, a big difference, the church down there at Catholic Church. It's different, it's just very, very different. Oh, wow.
Sunday mass dinner.
Wow.
Wow, this is really wonderful, how do they get these things, but I think everything that we're talking about, like, it does begin at home. And I think catechesis for the past maybe 50 years was weak.
Mhm.
Because when I was a child, we had friends that were priests, and we had a lot of sickness and tragedy in my family, but a priest showed up at our house and they took the kids out for walks, took us to the beach.
Mm.
We learned like through sharing and helping each other. And,
Mhm.
but then like the world got so busy, like working and everything, and that we left it to the church to
Something
catechize.
changed that in the
Yeah.
world also that creates different kind of conditions, very hard for families and even today to get together.
Exactly, but I think it's like we're all community of saints some way in
Yeah.
that. But if we try to build each other up one at a time,
Mm.
that'll be the community. Some churches are more welcoming, obviously.
Right.
I don't know, I just think I'm so hopeful it can happen.
Yes.
But I'm like the eternal optimist.
Oh,
Sometimes my glass is too full,
yeah, oh, yeah.
but it's okay if
Mhm. We need more of that.
yeah.
I have to believe that God is still present in everything that's going on, but
I think a lot of people don't put God first anymore. And
That's
we
very
gotta
true.
get God back in our
yeah,
country.
very true.
I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
Found the one place you could sneak through. I'm glad I can hear.
You'll fall again if you put it there, so
But you
put on the floor.
Oh, I think she lives in like, but Meadowbrook. Is it, is a school? No, that's not. I don't know.
It's a small world, there's a lot of, I actually think we're all part of one family.
Oh, sure, we are.
No matter what our name is.
We went to,
Can I tell you something that's just happened to me this week?
Mhm.
My husband's been gone 14 years, 15 years in January. Has his voice on my answering machine. I'm trying to make the sound so I can hear it, the ringer louder. Somehow I erased his voice.
Music and, you know.
My answering
but
machine.
It's not me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But
I was
how
so
can we get some of
heartbroken that
that?
day.
How can we get that?
I called people, nobody could help me. Verizon, you know, and the people from the phone, you know.
after that, like you called first Sue,
But-
after you make you.
With God's help,
Jesus, beautiful. It's a weekend
I've
retreat.
accepted
I
it.
recommend it if you haven't never
Good
done
for
it.
you.
But after.
Good for you.
It's
That's
so
hard, though,
much-
what you were able.
It's
to do.
happened.
It's
Yeah.
levels of joy.
Right.
and everything
I had it
shows
for
that-
14 years on there.
Evangelical high, but
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it was time.
I can't.
maybe it's because I'm.
Maybe it was time.
Yeah, oh, could be, yeah. Good for
I
you.
don't
know, I just felt.
Good for you.
So I'm trying
But I
to
was
accept
same
it,
time.
Yeah, it's not easy.
You know.
Yeah.
but with
I know,
God's
I
help,
Yeah. That's good.
with God's help.
Nice, thank you for sharing that. With
It's
God's
nice,
help.
it's nice that they have
Exactly.
troops like that.
It's, you know.
I've
when-
come to the conclusion, it happened,
Mm,
I have to go on.
Yeah, yeah.
God will help me.
Yeah.
I can put my own voice on now. for my children to hear someday.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
it was a heartbreaker though.
I'm sure. Because you were kind of keeping him with you with that voice.
That was the only way, through his voice. But
But now it's like you said, that maybe it's time to move on, right?
with God's help,
Yeah.
I am. I've accepted it,
Mm.
that it's gone,
Mm.
and I have to,
And maybe to sort of discover his presence in a new way.
true,
Like I was sharing with a few who was here this morning when I was sharing that Mary Lou and Kate, I think. I lost my mom
year and a half.
a year and a half ago about. And my mom had lived with me and my sibling, that I take care of, for about a year and a half before I helped her go into a nursing home. She had to go to a nursing home. She had Alzheimer and when she was in the nursing home, I'd call her every day. And in the morning, especially after mass, I grabbed my phone. Hi, Mom, how you doing? And then we'd say a prayer that I had learned by heart when she was living with me, a prayer to Mary. It's very powerful, very powerful. Apparently it comes from Saint Rita.
Oh, that's nice.
You know Saint Rita, the impossible things and everything. So anyways, I'd say that prayer with her every morning.
What prayer did you say with her?
That prayer to Mary, but I had put the English it was in French. So it's a prayer to Mary. I put the translation on the bookmark that I gave to her at the wedding. At the funeral, that I gave to people at the funeral. But
Talking to your neighbor.
so I would call her every day after mass. I would just dial the phone and talk with her a little bit and say that prayer. And my mother had a sense of humor. Would often talk about heaven as being the she'd say, "Oh, I bought my tickets already, and I'm ready to take the bus." But we'd say to her, "Oh, Mom, you can't bring all your luggage, because you have to go." I'd say to her, "You have to go through the narrow door, so you can't bring your luggage with you." So we're talking about heaven that way, So I said to her before she died, I said to Mom, when you die, I'm going to continue to call you every day. She said, "You better." She said, "I'm going to answer the phone too." So after she passed away, I kind of forgot about that book. There's so much going on. And then we had her the first year anniversary funeral, anniversary mass
She
in
called
April.
you, and then she called you?
No, listen, what? Better than that.
Okay.
So after that funeral mass, the anniversary mass, I thought about that again. I said, we're supposed to call her. So I started, after mass, I started saying that prayer. Every time I say it, and I say it every day, I feel her presence. I start crying. I feel her presence every day. Every day. So amazing. So so when I feel that, I say, "Mom, you told me you would. Don't abandon me.
It's called
Continue to be with me."
divine consolation.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I'm
Divine
saying that.
consolation.
That's right. So, Mildred, right? Is your name? So that's why maybe you can find something that you had with your husband there that he'll recognize you and then send you a sign of his presence, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I erased his voice on my answering machine this week. After 15 years, it's been on there. And I was broke this time. Because I could hear it every time. I erased it somehow.
Oh, by accident.
By accident, yes. And nobody could help me to get it back.
Is it on tape anywhere else? Like for the kids have?
No. So I've come to the conclusion, yeah,
It was time.
like Marie said,
Mary Lynn, yeah.
Mary Ann,
Mary Lynn.
Mary Lynn, all right. Maybe it was time,
Thank you.
maybe it was time.
Time to let go.
Maybe that was his side of it.
Yeah.
I was
Keep
hoping
it in your
that
heart.
would happen, but it really,
And now we
I've
don't even
come
have
to
time to.
peace with it somehow.
I didn't even
Must be
have
God
time to do
helping me. Peace with it.
There you go.
Mary is Marie in French, right?
Yeah, Marie. So some people, because I asked them, people to struggle with their tongue a little bit to say Mary Lynn out of Marie Lynn, but out of Marie Line, but I don't recognize when people call me Marie or Marie Line, it's like, ooh, not me. So I ask people to call me Mary Lynn. Whatever you can do is okay.
L-Y-N-N.
So it should be Lynn in English, but it's spelled in French, L-I-N-E.
Oh, is that
That's Mary
right?
Line.
So that's why I don't like Mary
Line.
Line.
No.
That's how, because in French you don't pronounce the last, the E's at the end, they never pronounce, so it's become Lynn.
I don't know why they use all those letters.
Well, just have it respelled, L-Y-N-N, and you'll be all set.
Yeah, I know, but somehow I feel attached to what my name really is, so I keep, I prefer asking people to struggle with it. So anyways,
Struggle with being here.
so that's a handout you can go over this week, whatever, about what we had talked about. So we'll take some time now to get into really a mode of, I don't have the exact English wording that I like when I say a mode of communion, state of communion, state of prayer, okay? The way to do that is, like I said, I will bring the exposition of the Holy Sacrament and I will play a song, How Great Thou Art, that I sang at, just the first verse that I sang at the concert. And for some reason, when I listened to it, and I knew when I sang it, the high note, I did it very badly. So you'll forgive me for that. But we'll play that part for the exposition of the Holy Sacrament. We will play a song within the adoration, so I'll be kind of guiding you through sort of a prayer. And then when we depose the sacrament, the Holy Sacrament for the second time, we'll play the How Great Thou Art again with the second verse, okay? And then we'll do a second time of adoration with a different song.
Could I make a suggestion
Yes,
during prayer time? Maybe if you could still see, turn out the light.
absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to do eventually.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I had thought I would do. And we could even maybe put down the, and if you could help me remember to bring them back up, right, Nadia? If you don't mind, 10. That will help for sure. Okay, so let me see first if I can get the song ready so that we can.
Maybe a pillow in case I doze off.
Well, like Marianne was sharing there, you can doze off and that's fine. The Lord may be working through you there. All right? Okay, so. Okay. Hey, magic. Very good. All right. And then. Oh Lord, my God, Start over. No, that's wrong. Hmm. Okay, I'll be able to get it a different way. Give me just 1 minute. As we enter this state of adoration, let's first recall how Jesus is present in this holy bread. And because he is present in his holy bread, in this holy bread, because he first died for our sins and resurrected from the dead. And he continues to offer himself to us to forgive our sins, but also to free us from the pain and the sufferings of the wounds that can lead us into sin. So for a few minutes, let's first take time to sit with this idea that God offers himself to us because of his immense love for us. Let's be aware of how he thirsts for our love. And he always makes the first steps toward us. He chases us at every turn so that we might accept to trust and love him.
Truly beneath the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every star on earth a queen, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above, would drain the ocean dry, nor could the straw contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. Rich and good, how measureless and strong, it shall renew the saints and angels.
So now, after hearing this song, perhaps could you just take a moment to visualize God, how you see him, perhaps as a father or as a son. Take time to see his appearance. Is he old, young? Does he look wise, loving, or maybe distant? Perhaps do you imagine God more as the Spirit, like a presence whose form might not be clear, but who gives you a sense that he's really there? Or perhaps do you even see God from his motherly characteristics through the image of Mary or otherwise? Just take a few moments to identify the different characteristics of God as you see him. And then maybe you just want to pay attention to how you feel in God's presence. Do you feel loved, understood, or in a great peace or joy? You feel attracted to him or distant, perhaps, or even impressed or intimidated? Perhaps you even feel scared and not worthy of his love. Whatever the feeling or impression, just take time to identify it. And then maybe something comes up in you that you might like to say something to God, or how you feel in His presence, or you might just want to write something down, or just take a moment inside of you to identify. If you're hesitant to say anything or to write, but if you'd like to say anything, I'll just be passing the crucifix. And if you feel like wording your feelings or your prayer or anything that comes up inside of you, just word it out, express it out as it comes. And if you don't feel like saying anything, you can just maybe write a few things down or just stay with whatever you feel inside that you want to do with the words that come up or the images that come up. And when you get the crucifix, and if you don't want to say anything, you just pass it on to the next person. But if you feel like just expressing your prayer out loud, it's always good to just let it out.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. God, for all you've given me, for your love and peace. Amen.
Lord Jesus, you have given every drop of your blood to take our sins away. Praise the Lord.
So because we're we're running out a little bit of time to do it as I suggested, to take a break between the two steps, we'll just move right into the second part of that adoration where we take time to sit at the feet of Jesus and just listen to him. We'll start with a song that's called Sitting at the Feet of Jesus. And I'll go on with a few indications on how to listen to what Jesus has to say after you worded out your own prayer. Is it too loud? Is it too loud? So if you just take time to imagine yourself at the feet of Jesus, but like at a wedding feast, where Jesus is the bridegroom and you are the bride. Just take time to listen to the words that Jesus might want to say to you in this heart-to-heart moment. It could be words, it could be feelings, it could be images, an image of something that emerges in your mind, in your soul. Just welcome whatever comes up. If you'd like, as we head towards the end of the exposition, if you just take a few moments to just say to Jesus in your heart, if I understand well, Jesus, you seem to be saying this to me. Kind of rephrase to him what you think he is saying to you. I'm gonna try to play the How Great Thou Art. But I have to search it for it. It might have a little awkwardness at first, so. Okay.
Thank you.
Just like to take the the last 5 minutes, I think we have. Yeah. To just quick sharing a sentence maybe from each one of you about what you experienced during that adoration, if you'd like, okay?
Well, I
Just a
find
sentence,
peace within
yeah.
myself, the adoration.
Peace within myself.
Peace, yes.
Very good.
And it's like a blessing. I'm calm.
Thank you. Calm down.
Yeah.
Very
nice,
peace
yeah.
and calm inside.
Yeah, really.
Wonderful.
Thank God.
Thank you, Tina.
And I had an image most of the time, as you spoke about, what you see in God. And at the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, there is a painting there, and it shows the Father, the Son, and the dove. And that's the picture that I see.
Beautiful. Picture of the Divine Mercy with the Father, Son, and the Dove Spirit. Thank you.
I felt what she felt, just peace and harmony and relaxing.
Deep
And I
peace,
could've-
harmony,
Yeah, I could
relaxing.
have just fallen asleep.
You could have, and you didn't let you fall, you didn't
No.
let yourself fall asleep. You could have.
I could have.
Right, beautiful. Thank you, Marianne. Yes, thank you.
I pictured myself sitting at the feet of Jesus, that he was an older man.
Mhm.
I always have this picture of Saint Nicholas.
Oh, Jesus has Saint Nicholas, an older man. Very good.
He loves his children, he loves all of us.
Mhm.
But he spoke to me in these words. I love, come my child, I love you. Listen to me. Follow me. Love me. I will bring you home.
Mm. Do you mind if I repeat it for recording it for the other people? Do you mind, or would you come and if you would like to, I could have you share in the microphone, right, for others to hear. That would be great.
Do you just want me to read the prayer or just?
Right, you can read the prayer. You said that there was I kind of reworded what you had seen in terms of image, but you go ahead with the prayer that you heard, the words that you heard.
Come, my child. I love you. Listen to me. Follow me. Love me. I will bring you home. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary Lou. Do you want to share it? You don't want to do it in my, do you mind if I repeat? Okay, go ahead.
I'm alone. My children are all gone.
Mhm.
I'll live on. But the Spirit of God is with me.
The Spirit of God is with you.
No.
You're not alone. Mhm. That's what you felt. Beautiful. Thank you, Mildred. Thank you. What's that? She said, I'm not alone. I am not alone.
Oh, jeez, God, what's right?
Ted, would you like to share something?
Only that he kept telling me, Ted, you got a long ways to go because your mind is too busy.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Ted, you have a long way to go because your mind is too busy. Very good. Good invitation to let the mind relax, be less busy. Beautiful. Thank you, Ted. Kate, yes?
I just kept hearing, don't give up on me, Jesus. I'm asking him, don't give up on me yet.
Mhm. So you kept hearing in yourself, asking Jesus, don't give up on me, don't give up on me. Beautiful. Thank you, Kate. Lisa, would you like to share a little something?
I just felt like reflecting that I feel like God for me is a presence and a feeling. And it's just with adoration, it's a complete feeling of peace and calm that comes over me.
Beautiful. God is a presence and a feeling which just provides calm and peace all over. That's what you experienced. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for being here again today. And for those who brought their lunch, as I indicated in the email, you can always bring your lunch. You can have lunch together. It's how to build community a little bit. And but those alone, that's fine too. And we'll see you next week. All right. Take
Thank
care.
you so
Thank
very
you.
much
Very
for
good.
all
Thank
your
you.
work.
Thank you.
God bless, God bless. We got to go, so I will. Thank you, ladies.
I wanna go
Nice
home and
see
go to
you
bed
all.
now.
Have a wonderful day.
And if anybody could help me putting things away a little bit before we do.
Yeah, let me help you. What do you want me to do?
Mostly the chairs.
Where do they go?
They go on the
bed.
Oh, you mean you want on top of each other?
Yeah.
What about the shades? You told us.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Jesus.
I don't go to bed.
Yeah, you need to and follow his invitation to sleep, right?
No, you know what it is? I'm always on the go.
Yeah, no, but you need
Always
to.
on the go.
That's right. You need to.
So I can be telling you,
Beautiful.
go down, go home, go to bed.
Beautiful. You go ahead and do that. So we'll see you next week, right? Maybe.
One here.
Thank you.
You can be instigator.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
See you next
See you next week. Thank you. For that?
Or an adoration.
Right, exactly. Yes, yes. We may do that too, yeah.
Adoration buddies.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I got this one. Thank you. Thank you. I think this is it now. How does that go? Want me to help you? Oh, you're all set? Okay. There's my bag off of here. And there's two more chairs.
Do you need some of this stuff taken out to the car?
Yeah, but I'm gonna have lunch first. I don't have to wait. I'll find. Unless you were saying for lunch.
I didn't bring my stuffed cabbage, no.
Maybe you could help me with that table, Ted, before we.
Absolutely.
You need help more?
Well,
I mean,
I
I
have
don't
a
know.
table and I think we'll be all set.
Okay.
Take care.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
we'll see
okay,
next
yeah.
week.
You want this
You want me to help you with the table? He's gonna
Ted,
do
you're
it.
gonna do it.
All right, Ted, God bless you. Go ahead.
He does, he
You
does.
have to use the men's muscles
Yeah,
like we
I
said last
know
week.
it, I know it, that's
We're
right.
back
Take
on
care,
that.
Stephanie. You too. Yeah, bye
It's
now.
gonna come out.
Yeah. Linda, we'll talk to you next week then, huh?
All right.
Okay, take care.
You too.
To make sure you put the,
Oh, yeah, these look.
or else it'll fold in on it, so. See that?
Oh, yeah, there's a little lock there, yeah. One on each. That's good.
We had to do that for the Pie Fest.
Oh, yeah. So kind of in the middle of that, and we'll bring this one in the middle and that. See that one? That one was not locked, it was folded, yeah. Yeah, there you go. This one is locked now, and now this one is locked. Okay. Nope, I think it has to go on top, right?
It has to go all the way to the other side, I think.
Like this, huh? Yeah, like this, right? So that way it won't.
Yeah.
Like this, you got it right. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So I'll just have a little bit of lunch and get everything up after that.
No, I think they just need to be like in a row.
Yeah, and once I get that out of the way, I'll move them up a
Do you
little
need
bit
help
forward.
with anything else?
Well, if you have time, maybe, well, you know what? I have to disconnect everything. I'll be able to do that,
You sure?
for sure, yeah. And I'll just have to have lunch first, so, and I want to keep you waiting, so it'll be good. I'll see you next week. See you next week.
There's lots to think about.
Yeah, I see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Yeah, great.